This is the Dunlop Galactica Padel racket, and today we're going to find out if it's the best value racket on the market. This particular racket is last year's model of Dunlop's top-end control range. What this means is that you can get a supposedly top-quality racket for a fraction of the price. This is something I always recommend for beginner to intermediate players to do, whether it's for buying their first racket or for upgrading their old one. Why get a cheap beginner racket when you can get a top quality one for the same price? Top quality rackets will usually offer more feel, power and durability compared to the cheap beginner ones. But the real question is, does this racket actually feel like something worth using, or is it too good to be true? This video is being made in partnership with pdhsports.com. As you can see here, they're currently selling this Dunlop Galactica for only £71.99, despite it being a racket worth well over £200. This might already sound like a good deal, but it gets even better. With the discount code pdhjes10, you can get 10% off on checkout for any product from the website, meaning this racket would cost less than £65 with free delivery. So back to finding out if it's actually worth that money. I'm breaking the test down into 5 parts, in which I'll give each a rating out of 10. The criteria I'll be rating it on are power, feel, manoeuvrability, sweet spot, and looks. Power will mainly be tested with aggressive smashes to see how easy it is to generate pace on the ball. Feel is about how much influence you have on the ball as you make contact with it. This will be easy to see when volleying the ball or hitting bandejas or vibras, whether it be when trying to take the pace off it or trying to apply spin to the ball. Manoeuvrability will heavily affect how easy it is to use when defending off the back glass or in the corners. Sweet spot is all about how forgiving it is, and will be most obvious when blocking faster balls before the glass at the back or on the volley from the net. Looks are my personal opinion of how it looks visually. I'll be going through each score at the end of the video, so stay tuned. The first part of the test is to see how it fares when defending from the back of the court. I started off by receiving some easy feeds off the back wall just to get a feeling for the racket. My initial thoughts were that it's quite an evenly balanced racket, so it feels very comfortable to use when dealing with anything off the back or side wall. The sandpaper textured racket face also grips the ball nicely, so I felt like I had good control over where the ball was going. Keep in mind that my general thoughts on the racket are based on how it feels rather than the quality of the shots I hit. This is because it's a relatively small sample size as it's taken from just one session, so the overall feeling of the racket is the most reliable information to go on. When blocking balls or volleying from the back, it also felt consistent and forgiving, which means it's effective at both defensive and aggressive play from the back of the court. The real test for its defensive capabilities are when the feeds are hit with more slice so it stays lower off the back wall. This is where a racket with a heavy head would start to struggle more. However, the even balance, again, makes it comfortable when dealing with the low balls off the glass. Although I don't show it here, it's also very easy to use when lobbing from these positions too. When moving to the net for the volleys, I started off with some slow feeds to see how it felt when hitting the more attacking shots. The sandpaper surface helped a lot with making sure that there was enough backspin on the ball to keep it low off the back wall. The ball did feel like it didn't remain in contact with the racket face for as long as I'm used to though, so it took a bit of an effort to take the pace off of the volley and to keep it in when hitting more aggressively. This is something that would easily be adjusted to after a few sessions using the racket though. The even balance helped with fast racket preparation too, so it felt really fast and sharp for these shots, as well as being able to generate some good racket head speed through the ball for the aggressive volleys. When receiving faster feeds, it did feel a bit more difficult to take the pace off of the ball than I'm used to with my usual racket. However, the easy manoeuvrability was useful when it came to reacting to a fast ball and getting the racket in position quickly to block. Next, I tested out the vibras and the bandejas. I had a similar experience with these as I did with the volleys. It was great for getting good spin on the ball and getting the ball to act how I wanted it to. It felt easy to change up the angle of the shot, whether it be to the fence, the sidewall, or the back wall. Having this adaptability is crucial when it comes to playing in a match, and it's probably just as important as the pure quality of each shot. I had a mixture of feeds, some to deeper positions and some a bit shorter. For the deeper ones, it just took some adjustment to keep the ball low off the back wall. As I just said, the slight weakness was that it felt like it was coming off the racket face slightly faster than I expected it to, so it was occasionally sitting up a bit higher off the back wall than I would have liked. This could have been for a number of different reasons, such as it being a much warmer day than the rest of the year leading up to it, or the balls being particularly lively ones. This did turn out to be true in the next test, which was for the aggressive smashes. But first, see how the even balance of the racket allows me to comfortably control the spin I put on the ball, and it gives me the ability to influence the ball how I want in these overhead positions, by generating good racket head speed to apply the spin. For the aggressive smashes, I just wanted to get a feel for how easy it was to generate power on the flat smash. I should mention that these shots are the weakest part of my game currently, due to this type of shot not existing in squash, although they are getting much better every time I play since my trip to Spain. The racket felt like it was generating great power for something with an even balance point and a teardrop head shape. Usually, the rackets that are more suited to power and smashes are head heavy, diamond shaped and have a harder surface. However, with this, it felt extremely easy to hit out by 3, and there were even times I hit out by 4 from positions I didn't even expect to, as it accelerated off the court surface a lot faster than I anticipated. I do believe that these balls are extremely fast, which would explain the difficulty in keeping them low for the volleys and the defensive overheads. Now, let's finish with the scores. So, for power, I'm going to give it a 7.5. Now, it's going to be very difficult for a racket of that teardrop shape and an even balance to get any higher than that, because normally you're looking at a diamond shaped racket with a heavy head and a hard surface to get the kind of 9s and 10s in the power range. So 7.5 for this shaped racket is a good score. Then we go on to feel. And for feel, I'm going to give it a 7.5 as well. Now, I think this probably could be higher. The balls that I used were extremely fast, so it was quite hard to control them. But it has the textured surface, the sandpaper surface that I talked about. So it's great for putting spin on the ball. It's just that I felt like the ball was popping off the racket face a little bit faster than I wanted it to, so I couldn't influence the ball as much as I wanted. But again, it could have been the balls, so I wouldn't treat that as a low score. It's actually a very decent score, and generally the ball went where I wanted it to go. And to be fair, it's a lot better than a lot of rackets I've tried out in the field department. Now let's move on to the maneuverability. Now for this, I'm going to give it a 9. It being a nice even balance makes it extremely comfortable to wield and move around, especially around the back corners. You always feel like you have control over the racket head in your hand, and you're not kind of lugging it around like with some rackets. They feel a bit cumbersome, particularly if you're really digging difficult balls out the back. And sometimes those rackets can also feel a little bit slow when you're on the volley and you're having to react quickly to something. They can feel a little bit heavy and slow, whereas this didn't feel like that at all. It felt like you could put it exactly where you wanted it to. And I always describe it as feeling like a magic wand. You feel like you can generate racket head speed, you can generate spin, you can just do whatever you want with the racket face because it's so maneuverable. So that is definitely one of the highlights of the racket, and it really does make it accessible for any level of player, because newer players will find it a lot easier to manage a racket with a lighter head. Advanced players will be able to use, well, it's just personal preference, they could use either. But yeah, it's accessible to any level. And for the sweet spot, I'm going to give it an 8.5. I felt like it was pretty nice actually, when blocking balls at the back of the court or volleying from the mid-court area or blocking a Bahada when you're at the net. It actually felt quite good. It didn't feel like there was ever a time that I was missing the sweet spot and it was kind of not making a clean connection with the ball. It always felt like there was enough force behind it when I was hitting it. With some rackets that are particularly unforgiving, if you have a bit of a bad day, it can completely mess up your shots, because if you hit anywhere outside of like the perfect central bit of the racket, it's just going to go thud and not go anywhere. That can happen. With this, I didn't feel like I was having an especially good day. I felt like I wasn't hitting it as well as I could have been, but it didn't feel like that was too big of an issue with the racket. So it was still able to produce good shots despite that. So yeah, 8.5 for the sweet spot. And finally, for the looks, I'm going to give it a 5. Now, I don't feel like it's one of the best looking rackets on the market. It's not bad looking, like it's not offensive to the eyes, it's just a little bit uninspired. It's quite basic with the colours and the pattern on it. I think the new ones they've made, the new Galactica range, looks a lot nicer. I think they've probably learnt from this one and improved on it. So check that one out too. But this one definitely looks a little bit on the cheaper side, even if the performance is up there with some of the better rackets on the market. Now, just in conclusion, this racket is a great all-round racket. It doesn't excel particularly in any area, apart from maybe the maneuverability, which because of the balance is very nice. But it doesn't suffer anywhere either. It still has good power despite the shape and the balance. It's able to perform where you need it to. And the whole point of this video was to figure out, is it too good to be true, or is it actually a top-end racket at a ridiculously cheap price point? And the answer is, it is a very nice racket at a ridiculously cheap price point. So if you're looking at upgrading your racket or buying your first racket, or even if you're an experienced player who has another top-of-the-range racket but wants a new one, this could be a great opportunity to get one for cheap, because you could, in theory, buy multiple of them for the same price as one other top-of-the-range racket. So there's almost no one who shouldn't try this, especially for that price. Like, paddle rackets are expensive. This is not expensive, especially for a paddle racket, and even more especially for one that is only a year old, top-of-the-range model. So I would recommend for everyone to buy this. But don't forget to use the discount code pdhjes10 for 10% off on checkout at pdhsports.com. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time. Bye.